Welcome to Inside the Game on the National Soccer Network. Now, here are your hosts, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wangler.
Live from our Grand Rapids and in Detroit, Michigan, I'm Jonathan Turner alongside Nathan Wangler. Episode number 137 underway here today as we are excited to have you in again on Inside the Game. I'll bring you now in with Nathan Wangler. And Nathan, man, welcome back here. I know you were off for a couple days, but hopefully you are, refreshed and ready to go here this morning.
It's always a good time. Thanks, JT. Went up north for a little bit. Walkerville, Michigan, which if you don't know where that is, it's fine. No one does. No one comes from Walkerville. Everyone goes to Walkerville. You know, the nice thing about living in this state is that we got lakes literally everywhere. I mean, you go another 2 miles, 3 miles in any direction, there will be another lake. And so, fortunately, that opens up a lot of opportunities to buy nice little properties, and we've had a family cabin up in Walkerville for the better part of the last 2 decades. And so that place has been, a lot of work has been put into dressing that place up and getting it exactly to where it needs to be. And so just went up there and enjoyed the time last couple of days. Went into Ludington, which is gorgeous. Just kind of giving out the playbook here if you haven't been to the state or if you haven't been to any of these places. So definitely check in. And it's important to take that time. But yeah, was up there for a few days. I thought you and Ryan did a great job while I was away. But obviously a lot of drama and a lot of stuff to come home to. It's interesting when you with what social media is in what we do. You know, I always call it a necessary evil. It's one of those things where if I didn't have to use social media for the remainder of my life, and I've said this to multiple people, if I could just put it down and not have to look about it, not look at it, think about it, anything else like that. If I didn't have to post another clip or another, hey, how's it going? My name is, for the remainder of my life, I would love to do that. I would love to just get off social media, get off the grid, maybe go live in the woods, something like that. But we can't do that because our job is reliant on people knowing who we are. Like, we are our brand. And I always tell young broadcasters that I work with, you are your own brand. You can't allow other people to win that race in front of you, because if you do, you're going to get lost in the sauce. All of a sudden, you're going to be out of the conversation. You got to stay relevant. And so it's amazing when you look away from social media for 5 seconds and then you come back to it. And even in a period where we're kind of getting into school season and you got college soccer and you got all these other things coming up, we're going to talk about a lot of that today, even on the international side and a lot of other juicy material going on, whether it be Wrexham and their magic continuing, whether it be some of the debates that are raging on that Ryan was talking about in the Premier League or the Champions League. There's a lot of different things going on. So a lot of good stuff to talk about here. But yeah, man, it's good to log off and not look at that stuff for a day or two. I know you and your family went to Cedar Point the one day, but we're entrenched in it all the time. But that's the point. You get away for a few days and you come back ready to get back to work and get dirty and talk about a lot of drama happening within the U.S. soccer space. So yeah, I'm ready to get after it.
Yeah, no, I obviously I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm glad that you are refreshed and are kind of in a maybe not a better place, but not that you were in a bad place to begin with, right? But getting away,
I'm always in a bad place.
Well, getting away is it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing, right? So I feel like sometimes you just need that day. You need those couple of days just to refresh after, what we do, the grind that we are currently in. It only makes sense that we take some time to again, regroup, refresh, regenerate,
recalibrate.
Yeah. Balance it off a little bit. So I could not agree with you more. But here is where so first and foremost, yesterday Ryan and I obviously did the show. After the show, me and him, we knew that there was going to be a U.S. Open Cup match, actually, a quarterfinal, right? The one previous was supposed to happen back in July, but it got rescheduled to last night. And matter of fact, there was a weather delay last night too. We'd actually gotten home from eating dinner, and we went to go watch it, and it was in a weather delay. So I ended up watching the Pulisic, docuseries on Paramount while we were waiting for that game to get back up and running. But me and Ryan had picked how we thought the game was going to go. Ryan had thought that Philadelphia was going to win 3-1. I picked 3-2 in favor of New York. In fact, Philadelphia did win their 16th time in a row, by the way, that Philadelphia has won over New York in that series. And Philadelphia moving on to the semifinals of the U.S. Open Cup.
And when it rains, it pours, right? I mean, when you're able to build a level of this is the expectation. They've figured out how to beat them. They've figured out a formula. I think that's the natural selection. I mean, I think if I was in that position looking at least those team and the breakdown of that game in particular, I would have leaned with them too. And it's a dangerous thing when a team figures out exactly what they need to do to get through to you, regardless of exactly who's on the field or who's in what position. They figured out a formula, and so they followed that formula to a T. So I think, coming from Ryan's perspective, it might seem like the natural choice to make that selection, but there was no indication, at least in anybody's mind, that they would do anything different. I mean, they've dominated that series over the course of those last 15 games, so I think it was a natural choice to have them win that one again. I keep forgetting that the U.S. Open Cup is actually going on right now. It goes so long that I just forget that those games are actually still happening, but yeah, continuing that era of dominance in that series. And again, I just think that's probably the natural selection.
That it is. Again, our new look and feel here, by the way, I think we need to continue to talk about that. This is a completely different, setup to what it's been here in recent, right, as far as how this looks and how it feels. And this is your first time kind of being involved in this. What are your thoughts on it?
I like it. My only issue is I'm trying to figure out what the hell's going on with my camera right now. But I like the look of it. I hope you can still hear my audio on the other side. But
yep,
no, it looks really good. We've talked about different places, different mediums in which what could host this show, what can make it look better, what could really dress it up. And I think in using this platform, I think this is a really good start for us. I think this is a really good place to be. So I think, this is going to allow us a lot of different opportunities. And I think obviously with us continuing to introduce, new people into our space and doing more, different things, I think that's only going to provide us more opportunities in the long run. So I think this is something that's really exciting, and it'll certainly be a great opportunity for us moving forward.
That it will. So what are we talking about here today? A couple things. One is yesterday we talked about the Big Ten women's and MAC women's preseason polls. And while we aired that show yesterday, we were able to also take a look at the ACC, the Big 12, and the Horizon League. And so today we'll talk about those three conferences, their preseason polls. We'll get into that here on the show. I know there's some things that you want to, but yesterday I had a chance, and I'm going to put this on the screen. I think this is important. Yesterday I had a chance. I went to the mall with my kids, and we went to this place. It's called Cosmic Collection Card, something like that, Nathan. And anyways, I picked up these Topps Chrome trading cards, MLS 2024, and then FIFA and their Select 2025 trading cards. So I'm going to open these up today here in the studio, not necessarily on this show, and open them up. And, hey, maybe if there are, some good ones in here, we might give these away as a prize. So we'll figure that out. But I thought it was a cool pickup for me yesterday. Whenever you can get your hands on some soccer stuff, it was pretty cool. Did I lose you officially now? Nathan, you there? We actually might have lost him. So what we'll do is we'll come back to me, and when Nathan comes back in, we'll dive in and have him join us. Again, sometimes technology, right? It can freeze up on you, so he'll continue to work on that. But so yesterday we talked about the Big Ten, and we talked about the MAC in regards to their preseason polls. The plan today was to get into and talk about the the Horizon League, and that's where we were going to start first this morning. Hopefully, Nate will be back here in a moment. But what I want to do now is start talking about this, and the Horizon League, being a mid-major conference just like the MAC, is a conference that it can be very, very competitive. There's not a lot that would separate the top teams from the bottom teams, right? And if we talk about what happened last year in the Horizon League, specifically in regards to women's soccer, Milwaukee is the team that came away with the overall league championship, right? They had 31 total points. They were 10-0-1 in the conference. Northern Kentucky was just below them at 6. So those were the 1 and 2 seeds last year going into the Horizon League tournament. And then you had Detroit Mercy, Robert Morris with a 4-3-3 record. IU Indy was 14 points. They were 4-4-2. Purdue Fort Wayne was 4-6. Wright State 3-5-2. And again, if we continue to kind of talk about the Horizon League final, this is what it looked like. It was Horizon League Championship, Northern Kentucky versus Milwaukee. So you had your number 1 and number 2 teams. They were playing in that final, and just again a phenomenal environment to play a soccer game in here last year, taking place in Milwaukee. As we have the highlights there on the screen. You just can't say enough about, again, what the Horizon League has been able to do and what, has come from Milwaukee and Northern Kentucky's matchup here last year. Beautiful save, but then the back and put back in. Again, what a phenomenal game this game was. We still wait for Nathan to get back in.
Hey, you got me? Test 1 2 1 2 3. You got me? You got my audio?
I do have your audio, and I don't have your camera yet, though.
You got me now?
Yes, I do now. Yes, I
hey, look at that! All right.
So Milwaukee did win the championship game last year in the Horizon League. Obviously when you win the Horizon League, what's going to end up happening is you're going to end up ultimately becoming the preseason poll winner in most cases. And that's what they did here, right? And so Milwaukee atop, the polls here. They expected to win the league here this year. Northern Kentucky, which again, very reminiscent. We look top to bottom from the 2024 women's soccer standings. Milwaukee was first, Northern Kentucky second, Detroit Mercy was third, Robert Morris was fourth, IU Indy, Purdue Fort Wayne, right? The only thing different there is Wright State's popped over Purdue Fort Wayne. And then you've got Green Bay, Oakland, which is over Youngstown State. And then you've got Cleveland State is where that. Now, Oakland finished dead last year. They were 2-8 overall in the Horizon League. And so, again, you can't say enough about this Milwaukee team. But Oakland, which is obviously here locally in Metro Detroit, I'm curious how they'll fare this season. They have a pretty good squad, but they took a step back here over the last couple of years after losing Wanpa.
And that is true. Listen, obviously Milwaukee's going to get the nod in the Horizon League to lead it because of what they've been able to do, right? 7 out of the last 8 years, they've been selected to finish first. An amazing run of 13 straight from 2000 to 2012. They've built a reputation in terms of being that team that's kind of the pace car within the Horizon League. And we've seen that. And Kevin Boyd, repeated the titles and took the Panthers back to the NCAA tournament. What was their 17th time in program history? In 23, did it again in 2024. And then obviously going back to what they did last year in what Lainey Higgins, the Horizon League Player of the Year honor. She was absolutely unbelievable. I mean, she was someone that kind of carried the weight for that team. Parker Donahue, goalkeeper of the year, which we know we talk about this all the time. If you want to win championships and if you want to get deep into the postseason, that's what it starts. Like, you have to be strong in goal. And if there's one thing that Milwaukee has proven, it's that they have a level of consistency in that place. Kayla Rollins, repeat selection as Horizon League Offensive Player of the Year. So they have all their bases. In addition, I mean, they have 6 first-team all-league selections. That's the most in program history at Milwaukee. So I think someone like Detroit Mercy can certainly give them a push, a run for their money. I think there are other teams within that league that could certainly really kind of push them in a lot of ways. But it reminds me of, I do games within the GLIAC, and we always talk about in Division II, Grand Valley State is the team. They're the program. And so there are going to be teams that maybe push them a little bit. But, man, it's going to be hard to overcome just the complete nature of what the makeup of this team is. I think this game is so much built on roster construction. I mean, if you have the right roster construction, that's going to win you more championships and get you more opportunities than a lot of other programs. And so I'm not saying that there isn't good individual pieces on other teams within the Horizon League that'll be able to push them or give them a challenge, but do you have the endurance to stack up against a squad like that and give yourself an opportunity to be in a championship situation? I mean, I think it's the easy option to say that they're going to run away with a title. And here's the thing with especially when it comes to standings, and I know we're going to touch on Big 12 and ACC coming up here, but the future standings, what we see right now is built off of reputation. It's built off of resume. Like, what have you done to this point to prove to people that you deserve to be in that position? Milwaukee's done everything. So I don't really know who in that league is going to be able to push them out of that position, or who's going to be able to take the throne from them. But right now, I think Milwaukee is 100% the natural selection in this situation in order to be the team that emerges out of the Horizon League. They have all of their bases covered with exactly what they have going on. So I think, if we're making predictions on this show today, I think Milwaukee is still the runaway choice to get out of the Horizon League and to do what they need to do to get back to the NCAA tournament. I definitely see a third straight year in which they're in that position.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that, again, if we talk about what Milwaukee's all about, I think that this is a team that is a force to be reckoned with, and they've done a really good job of winning soccer games and getting atop the table and ultimately winning a championship, right? And so then going on into the NCAA tournament, that's a whole other level, right? We talked about that yesterday on this show. Getting into the dance, so to speak, is the prize that you get when you win your tournament, right? And so and that's where teams like Milwaukee will struggle, in the NCAA tournament, because again, you're talking about who you're facing. You're facing the likes of really, really good teams. And so, I think that Milwaukee is a great team, and I do believe that they will be a force to be reckoned with here again this season. I also do believe that Oakland, who is again in the Horizon League on this here in Metro Detroit, it's a team that is on the rise, and I know that where they're currently, they're positioned, right? We put it on the screen, we'll show it here again, where they are currently positioned, right? And right there at number 9, tied for 9th. I think this is a team that, some good things can come of what is going on in Oakland. And so I feel like they might do way better than what this is. And again, I could be wrong. They finished last year, But, anyways, Michael Lathrop says, good morning, gentlemen. So, well, good morning back to you.
What's up, Michael?
We are going to figure out a way to get your comments on our screen here. It's something that we are going to work on. It is something with the new technology that we're using for our show to produce our show. It is going to just take some time. So, but it is something that is on my agenda of things to accomplish here over the next couple of days. So, but yeah, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break. We do have breaks now, Nathan. We take commercials now. Isn't that nice? We're going to step aside here for a break. We come back. We'll dive into the Big 12. We'll talk about the Big 12, their preseason polls here in women's college soccer. But you're watching Inside the Game here, episode number 137 here on the National Soccer Network.
Boost your brand with NSN's live soccer broadcast, reaching a passionate audience in real time. Engage fans during thrilling soccer matches. Maximize visibility with tailored ad packages. Add 30-second or 60-second commercials for concise, impactful messaging and greater audience connection. Call 586-304-4405 and start your campaign today.
The Flint City Bucks are Michigan's top soccer franchise with 4 national championships, 9 conference titles, and 15 Great Lakes Division titles. They have produced 107 players for Major League Soccer, and they focus on attracting top talent and shaping soccer's future. Michigan Bucks Academy joins MLS Next new competition tier starting in September of 2025. This offers elevated levels of play and flexibility for high school participation. The Academy will provide premier development, high-performance training, and exposure to scouts through regional tournaments and MLS Next events. For more information on tryouts, training programs, and key updates as we prepare for our first season in MLS Next new tier, visit MichiganBucksAcademy.com.
Welcome back here Inside the Game here on this Thursday morning. My goodness, I feel like it's a Thursday again here. It's Thursday morning. It was Wednesday yesterday, but Jonathan Turner alongside Nathan Wangler. Happy to have you wherever you're watching here this morning. That was a look at downtown Grand Rapids and where Nathan resides 98% of the time.
Yeah, not all the time. I move around a little bit. I mean, you know that. This is part of the job. But yeah, most of the times, yes, that is definitely where I where I reside. So yeah, great city and everything.
Right. I thought that was pretty spot on.
It's about 98%. Yeah, just give or take somewhere in there. Yeah, but that's generally speaking.
Oh, you just froze my guy again. We'll keep an eye on Nathan here. Oh, there he is. He's back.
This is ridiculous, man.
We're going to have to send him out. We're going to send him a pack, an internet pack or something. Maybe it's internet. I don't know.
Yeah. Yep. And a little fuzzy, too, and trying to get this webcam to work, man. We're all over the place. But anyways, no, yeah, about 98%, I would say.
About probably 98%. So we're going to dive into the Big 12 here. Again, we talk about this, and when we get into these conferences and we talk about what these teams did last year, obviously extremely important because last year is what is the driving factor, right? In fact, in a lot of what happens here in the preseason polls. What'd you do lately, right? We talk about that all the time, in our realm, all right, and. These polls are no different when it comes to in the Big 12 than what we saw in the Horizon League.
Yeah, exactly. I'm interested to see what our list is, and I'd love to talk about it. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff to cover there.
So we'll take a look at it here. We'll put it on your screen. So TCU is sitting atop the preseason poll. Texas Tech, they're at number 2. BYU at 3. West Virginia at 4. Kansas at 5. Colorado at 6. Oklahoma State at 7. Arizona at 8. 9 is Utah. 10 Baylor. And then rounding out the 11 through 16, Arizona State, UCF, Cincinnati, Iowa State, Houston, and K-State.
And what I love about TCU, and this is, you and I actually got, it's cool we can get to do these club games in these different leagues. You think about the USLW, we got to see Seven Castaigne play up close and impersonal, right? We got to see her play right in front of us. And so I think we gained a certain respect as to the type of firepower that TCU has this year. And that's not even factoring in, you think of Bella Diorio, who's named the 2024 Big 12 Forward of the Year. So not only do you have the combination of someone like Seven Castaigne, who I think can be someone who can not only get to the NWSL, but someone who can make really an impact at that highest level. I mean, was the player of the year in the USLW, and rightfully so, the Golden Boot Award, after she was able to dominate play. Then you factor in the firepower of having someone like Bella Diorio. You have one of the best 1-2 punches in the entire Big 12. And so looking forward to these votes, and that's a pretty big gap. I mean, 21 above Texas Tech, who's in that second place position, who I do think they have a lot of great pieces on that team. I do think there is someone to there are a lot of really good pieces. Talk about roster construction and how important that is. I do think they have a lot of different players that, again, can really push that TCU squad. But they have, in terms of, again, just speaking from the position of just pure firepower, talent-based, the ability to improvise, the ability to manufacture goals, right, and making the right moves and getting the right details correct. The true firepower of that TCU squad and what they've been able to do already, I think they're the team to emerge out of the Big 12. And I know I'm not breaking any news here by saying these things, right? Because I've already said Milwaukee was going to emerge out of the Horizon League. Now I'm saying that TCU is going to, emerge out of the Big 12, but it's only because of what we've already seen, whether that be at the club level, whether that be what they've already been able to accomplish. And again, talking about those two specifically up front, there's a lot to love about what we've seen out of that TCU team in particular. So I think they're cooking with gas right now. So I think they probably arguably have the best chance to emerge out of the Big 12. I don't know how you feel about that team or what their chances are, but man, they have a couple of really good pieces up front, and that's not even talking about the remainder of the team. So I think there's a lot to love about that TCU squad. And again, anytime you have Seven Castaigne and Bella Diorio kind of running the table for you up front, that sets the table for everything you want to do as a team. So I think there's a lot to love about what they bring to the table. I think TCU is my choice in the Big 12.
Well, and obviously, so do the rest of the Big 12, right? We talk about that. There they are, right? TCU is sitting atop in the polls. And again, we start talking about Seven Castaigne. We saw her up front, close and personal here this summer, and again, a phenomenal player that we see from TCU. So I don't think that's going to change. Again, another really, really good player, and I do believe the TCU will come away with the championship league title this season as well. So I couldn't agree more, and I think that the fans and the teams themselves believe the TCU will also win it this season. And again, that's at least that's what we believe will happen based on what we're seeing here. You think about this too. Again, 7 Big 12 programs reached the NCAA tournament last year, league's highest total since 2003. Right, so that's a big factor in all of this, right? TCU, by the way, had 13 first-place votes. There's only 16 teams in this entire league, right? So
right.
13 out of the 16 felt TCU was the best team, okay? And that's not just because TCU is, what we think they know. They know how good this team is.
And that's exactly it. I mean, and when you have other coaches giving you that nod, you realize there's that level of respect there. And that's the thing about these standings is they understand what they're up against. They understand exactly what they're fighting for. You're showing this upset right now of Kansas over TCU. I mean, just look at the joy, look at the elation. Like, these are things that come with beating the team that you understand that you're going up against is a tough out. And it's going to be really hard to knock them off their throne. But the one thing that's reassuring for the remainder of the Big 12, and you just mentioned it, I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth, they more teams going to the NCAA tournament than they have in the last, 2 decades now, 2 decades plus. So it's not a situation where TCU is going to necessarily run away with things. They have a lot to prove this season, not only to just us, but to the remainder of the conference, especially when you talk about just how deep the Big 12 is. Conferences don't make any sense in college athletics anymore. I mean, what is the Big 12 when you have 16 teams? But that's kind of where we are. And so there's a lot of opportunities to push them out of that top spot. But I think as of right now, they're the deepest team, they're the fastest team, they're the strongest team, they're the most technically sound team. And so I think the natural selection is to have TCU emerge out of it. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to have issues with not only Texas Tech. Let's talk about BYU for a second, JT. I mean, we looked at that USLW game. A lot of players from Utah who played in that game. The state of Utah is starting, at least in women's soccer, is starting to really emerge as a hotbed in terms of talented players that could really, really bring that BYU program to the next level. I mean, Utah State are both really deep. They really helped out that Utah United team in winning that championship. But I think you could also mix in BYU into the mix. So the level of play continues to get better in the Big 12. However, I still think the front runner, the team that really sets up everybody else, is TCU in the Big 12 as it stands right now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Another team that's going to be a force to be reckoned with is TCU. Again, we talk about it a lot. You know, TCU has been good for a number of years. And when you have really good players who play on your team and you have good coaching and you have history, those things lend towards, you know, at least you being favorable to win, you know, when it comes down to the end of the season, right? And again, TCU, they fell short in the final, losing to Kansas. That was obviously not how that was supposed to be scripted out for TCU. You could argue, you know, that, again, when you have to play one team one time, you know, in these championship games, you know, anything can happen. And that's what I love about soccer. That's also what I hate about soccer, right, is that you have these games where, you know, you should win, but just for a number of other reasons, you don't. And so, but with that being said, I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that, you know, the entire league and coaches are the ones who vote for this. And so if you're telling me that 9 coaches out of 16 think that they're going to win this thing, okay, that means that there's some uncertainty. But when you have 13, you know, 13 coaches, all who coach and play and who are coached in this league, they know. They know. Yeah. Right. So this isn't.
And the remaining ones probably want to believe that they can.
We think this is going to be a winner. No, this is like legit.
Right.
Know, so I think that's an important thing to acknowledge is that, you know, this was voted upon by the coaches in their own conference.
I think the remaining ones that didn't vote them to be in that place are probably the ones that are right on their tail. They're probably in that top 5 and believe that they could be the ones to end up going on to win the championship. So I love the confidence of the handful of, you know, it reminds me like the Hall of Fame voting, you know, like there's always like the 1 or 2 that don't necessarily vote the one way or the way you expect them to. And so that's kind of like the way we are with the standings. Like the unanimous selection is TCU because of what we've seen them do. But I still think there's a contingency of teams in that mix who are like, well, we could be right in that conversation as well. So that's something that looking at those standings, I do think, again, they're going to have some deep competition because that's just the Big 12. That's just how things work in that conference. But, you know, I still think TCU is probably the best selection out of all the ones that we're seeing in that conference.
I couldn't agree more. Hey, we are going to step aside for one more break here. We're going to come back. We'll dive into the ACC. The Tar Heels won the national championship last year, their gazillionth championship in the history of women's soccer in college. We'll talk about them and the ACC and where they all stack up here on the other side of the break. You're watching episode 137 of Inside the Game here on this Thursday morning.
Experience the thrill of the game like never before with NSN's Game Rewind. Dive into full match commentaries enhanced with cutting-edge dynamic graphics, letting you relive the highs and lows of your favorite matches in astonishing detail. Whether it's a championship win or a legendary play, NSN Game Rewind bridges the past and future with a broadcast experience designed to captivate. Call 586-304-4405 and start watching today.
back here into Inside the Game on this Thursday morning. Jonathan Turner alongside Mr. Nathan Wangler. And we are knee-deep in preseason polls here. We covered the Big 12 this morning and the Horizon League yesterday. We talked about the Big 10 and the MAC, and we'll now discuss here the ACC. And before we put it on your screen, Nathan, has anything surprised you so far in any of the polls that we've seen?
No, I think, listen, the polls themselves never really come as a surprise. I don't think there's ever really, when you look at preseason polls, it's built off of past results. And that's what we see all the time, right? So naturally, if you finish atop the table, you're probably going to get the nod unless you made some sort of upset, some sort of deep run that nobody was expecting. Then you would expect to see some sort of, differential. You would expect to see something different. But with what we've seen so far, I don't really think there's any surprises. I didn't necessarily expect there to be any surprises on that front. I think what we've seen, I think Milwaukee is the team to beat. I think TCU is the team to beat because what we've seen from them already. So naturally, I think those are the selections. Now, when you talk about what we got coming up, that's where things start to get a little murky when we talk about the ACC, because it's what I said going into the USLW championship game. It is the conference in women's soccer in the United States, in college women's soccer in the United States. I mean, it's a toss-up. You saw what North Carolina was able to do in their run to the national championship. If you win a national championship, far and away, I feel like you should be the team to emerge out of that conference. But we also saw what Duke did a season ago in being conference champions. So Duke has proven that at least within that realm, within that conference, they were able to emerge as champions last year. And I think what's great about it is it sets up this dynamic, this new elevated dynamic of that rivalry, Tobacco Road rivalry, because now, you have these two universities, and I think the one thing that makes that clash what it is, specifically when we watch it like in college basketball, is because of their proximity to one another. That's what makes that so intense. But now we're looking at it from the women's college soccer side. It's even more intense. It's brought that to a new level. And so I don't know if there's necessarily any surprises, at least not in the first two that we've talked about. I don't even think necessarily in this one, because I know naturally who's going to be the top selection there. However, in terms of who might emerge from the ACC itself, that's a completely different conversation. And we've seen more parity in that way, specifically when we look back to last season, what happened then. So I don't know if there's necessarily any surprises there, but to me, I think this is the most interesting, the most intriguing of all the different conferences that we've covered so far, the ACC specifically.
Yeah, we're going to actually put the standings from last year on the screen here. I'm going to push it in right now. Take a look here. I mean, my goodness. It kind of came out weird. I don't know why I did that, but we'll go ahead and do it like this. There we go. But we look here. This is how it finished. Duke finished first. They were 9-0-1. Wake Forest sitting there at 2 at 22 points. They were 7-2-1. Florida State 7-2-1, and then North Carolina sitting there in fourth place, and at 7-3. This is a team that won the national championship, right? They finished fourth in their own conference. It just goes to show you, it just goes to show you that anything can happen in a tournament.
Yeah.
Right? And but we're going to take a look here at the preseason polls here. ACC, take a look at it right here on your screen. Sitting there again, atop the polls, North Carolina, number 1. Number 2, Notre Dame. Number 3, Florida State. Number 4, Duke. And this is, again, if we think about what happened here with all the other polls we put on the screen, the team that won the tournament last year or finished first in the league last year, what happened? They were sitting atop the poll. Duke won the league last year.
Yeah.
They're fourth.
Right.
Remember, North Carolina was fourth. Stanford, they're fifth. Wake Forest 6, Virginia is 7, Virginia Tech 8, Clemson 9, California 10. Then rounding out 11 through 17, Pitt, SMU, Boston College, Louisville, Miami, NC State, and Syracuse. So, I mean, again, it just goes to show you how good this ACC side is.
And that's the part. And so, obviously you look at the rundown and what was it? 8 consecutive seasons in which an ACC team has played in the national championship. I mean, I don't know how, if there's any conference where it's really difficult to actually predict how things are going to go, it's the ACC. And it's because there's a level of parity in that conference that it's hard to really figure out, who exactly is going to emerge. I mean, the Tar Heels at 23 titles since 2012. I mean, this is really kind of uncharted territory in a lot of ways. And, with 10 first place votes, I think, out of the conference, 17 points ahead of Notre Dame, which earned a pair of first place votes. And there's a lot of different players to like on that team. And, there's a lot of different teams that could emerge and make a run out of this. But, I think if you win a national championship, right, and this is, you even look at the preseason All-ACC team, they have a lot of different names that really fill out that role, that list. Tessa Della Rose, Katie Fosse, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, Olivia Thomas, Linda Ullmark, who we've seen make a lot of really good strides. Of course, Notre Dame has a few names in that, but in terms of overall names, and especially at the midfield position, North Carolina is really strong. So they have a lot of really key players that I think will help them in this pursuit. But again, it's a toss-up, man. We can talk here all day about what they bring to the table, but this is one of those conferences where you need to settle it on the field, because that's the only way that we're going to truly figure out exactly who's in the mix and who could make a run come the end of the season. So I think if there's one conference where this is really a toss-up, this is certainly it. But again, I'm not breaking any news by saying how much I love the front runners in this conference, but I think North Carolina has certainly earned their reputation as being the team to chase.
Another look here again at the AC Women's preseason poll. Again, the coaches of the AC voting here for who they believe will win the overall, league title and first place in the ACC. Again, North Carolina getting 10 first place votes, 246 total points. Notre Dame had 2, Florida State had 4, Duke did not have any. And again, Duke finished first last year in this conference. So you think about that again. Olivia Thomas, by the way, is the one that ended up scoring the game winner in the national championship game here. We might see it on our screen here in a couple moments. Again, that's depending on how much time we have left in this segment. But Olivia Thomas, a local product here in Michigan, I've had a chance to call her name, not only in high school soccer games, but also in regards to her time with the Flint City AFC side and the USLW. She is a fantastic player, and it was great to see a local product in Olivia Thomas being able to do her thing last year and helping North Carolina get their 23rd national championship in school history, their first since 2012.
Yeah, and that's a big step in the right direction, right? I mean, you got, like I talked about, you got a lot of key players on here, so I think she's another one. When you add on top of all those other players that I just mentioned that are in that mix too, I think depth and development are two things that they've done a really good job at. I think Duke is certainly going to push on them a little bit, and we're going to have to find out. I do think there is a lot to love about what they bring to the table, but again, this is just a matter of, it's one of those things. We got to find out, when they get into play, who exactly sorts themselves out, because it's not far and away one team. And I know they've gotten the respect from a lot of different coaches, and clearly, you gain that respect from having faced them. But where they're able to take that, where they're able to bring that, I don't know. That's the question. But there are a lot of players to like on this team, and so I think while it's not far and away the selection with a lot of things, I think they probably have the best chance out of anybody to really be that team to emerge from that conference.
That they do is actually we're looking at the AC Women's Soccer Final. It's not the national championship game. I apologize, but they end up losing in this game 3-2 to Florida State. So you think about that too. Again, this is a team that did not win the ACC championship, did not win the ACC title game, still found a way into the tournament, and obviously finding a way to win over their competition and winning a national championship. So again, kudos to North Carolina. On that achievement. Again, number 1 in the preseason poll here for the ACC. Again, put it back up on your screen, and there it is. And, we'll continue to highlight, these conferences across the country. We obviously will get to the men's here in the next week. We had a chance to cover a lot of the main conferences. We'll try to cover as many conferences as we can here on Inside the Game. I think it's a cool thing that we can maybe try to do that maybe isn't being done someplace else. Maybe only being done maybe in each conference. And so trying to, and then we'll ultimately try to highlight these players and these teams and these games throughout the fall season here on Inside the Game.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a fun season. So we'll see who comes out of it.
So we are going to step aside for our last break. We come back. We will continue the conversation about the fall season, but we're going to dive into some other things, some topics that are important to you that you talked about here last night with me. We'll get into some Wrexham conversation. We talked about this Christian Pulisic thing that happened where on the documentary and with what's happening, obviously, through all of that, his thoughts on what happened here during the Gold Cup season. We'll talk about that. So don't go anywhere. You're watching the 2025 edition of Inside the Game. Just messing around. Episode 137. We'll be back here on the other side right after this.
Are you ready to create unforgettable moments for your audience? NSN offers professional live streaming and full broadcast services tailored to your needs. From high-quality production to exceptional coverage, we ensure your game or event becomes a spectacle to remember. Book your next game with us today. Call 586-304-4405 to schedule your broadcast and let NSN bring the action to life like never before.
Welcome back into Inside the Game, episode 137. Jonathan Turner alongside Nathan Wangler. And again, hey, if it's your first time stopping by, hit that subscribe button. We are live right now on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Roku. You can watch us on our Roku TV channel. Obviously, by just heading over and downloading that on your Roku TV. You can also watch us at nationalsoccernetwork.tv. So if you still want to check out what we do on Roku, you can do it right there as well. All of our breaking news, by the way, all these polls can be found on the National Soccer Network on our nationalsoccernetwork.com news page. So go there, check out all the coverage of these polls as we've written stories about all of that. And so you can, again, check that out at the nationalsoccernetwork.com. But again, before we dive into Wrexham, yesterday I was sitting here in studio with Ryan Glinsky. We had just finished our show, and he was talking about the Pulisic comments in regards to the Gold Cup, and I obviously a number of players and their thoughts on a lot of the pundits in the media complaining about the Gold Cup, right, and about the fact about whether these players, actually want to be there, right, and it's something me and you have talked about quite a bit on this show. We have not on any level been conservative about our viewpoints on the players on the field. And while I don't know internally what these players, what they're doing, what they're not doing, and how they perceive the game for what it is and how they're playing, I do know what hard work looks like. I do know what grit looks like. I do know, again, we talked about it. You can see it, you can smell it. I mean, there's a test. You just looking at it, and you can tell from how people are playing how players are playing, whether or not they are giving it their all. At least in my experience of covering the game of soccer, whether that be a coach, a player, a fan, or now as a commentator or broadcaster. And Nathan, you know, when we start talking about this, I don't feel like we're off base. Now, based on the U.S. men's national team players, they do. They're like, well, you know, they haven't won anything. Yeah, we know they haven't won it. We know that the former players like Clint Dempsey and Landon Donovan and Lexi Lawless, we know these players didn't win anything outside of a Gold Cup or, you know, some non-relevant, you know, in the whole big scheme of things, tournaments. We know they haven't won a World Cup. I mean, we know that. But I feel like this infighting of the U.S. men's national team between the new, you know, regime and the old regime, I don't know. I just don't know if I agree with their sentiments, and maybe I'm off base here. I know that Ryan made a video on TikTok Short yesterday, and short video about it on social media about it. I don't know, man. I'm struggling with this. You know, I don't know. I'm curious your thoughts.
First off, this golden generation that we're talking about right now, they don't have their signature win. The only thing that this generation has done has drawn against England, which is fine, and they've beaten Mexico. Arguably Mexico's worst generation that they've had really in the history of their international play. I need to dispel some rumors, right? Because when we talk about these old American players, you know, the belief is that they hadn't won. They have their signature wins. They beat Spain. They broke up Spain's 30+ game win streak at the international level. They beat them. They emerged out of the group of death, and they're unbeaten against Portugal in the World Cup. They've had a lot of signature moments. In the Confederations Cup, I mean, they've made it really deep into that tournament before. They have, in past years, gone toe-to-toe with some of the best, and they have had their moments in the sun in the international level. Now, if winning a World Cup is winning a big game, well, then I guess we should factor in the other 90% of the world that's never won a World Cup. So I guess that means that they haven't had their signature win. But they have had their signature win. They have had their signature moments. Landon Donovan played for the best United States men's national team ever. Okay, let's not forget about that. All right, a few other things that I think we need to factor into this, because I do think this is fascinating. And I know that you went to the Soccer Expo, and the one thing that they told you is, listen, we can be critical, but we need to be fair. Okay, that's fine. I understand the patience aspect of it. I understand acknowledging how far we've come and everything else along those lines. All right, but I said this after my reaction video to their loss to Panama in the Nations League. If you want to be respected, you have to do something that is respectable. And right now, there's not a lot to respect about this current squad. Okay? Couple other things. Number one, don't bring your dad to a fight. Okay, that's not the right thing to do. That is soft. This is the exact thing that makes you guys soft. But those guys, those old guys that you're referring to, they have their signature wins. They've had their moments. All of it has led up to this. If you're Christian Pulisic, though, here's my issue. It's not what you did in stepping away for the time that you did. It's how you went about it. Okay, you could have been in front of a camera and told the American fan base, who cares a lot about what this team does and what it represents for American soccer, specifically on the men's side, hey, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm at physically. This is where I'm at mentally. This is why I need to step away. I need to allow Mauricio Pochettino, this, that, or the other thing, the flexibility to be able to put different players in, to try out different things. You could have done that. But you didn't. What you did was you disappeared. What you did is you disappeared into the ether. You went away. And so you left all of us scrambling, wondering, why is he not here? Him, Tim Weah, all these other players that decided, hey, you know, I want nothing to do with this. You used the term disarray once upon a time when we were talking about what the Gold Cup team was doing. And it frustrated me in the moment because in watching that young, scrappy team win those games and get all the way to the final and take on Mexico in that game, it frustrated me to a point because in my mind, that did not speak towards a program that was in, quote, disarray. That, to me, actually spoke to a program that was making strides in the right direction. But the best player from our country is more interested with bringing his father to a fight to defend his honor about why he's not willing to live, breathe, and die the international team instead of addressing the American fans directly. It's not what you did, Christian Pulisic. It's how you did it. It's how you went about it. It's the tone that sets going into the 2026 World Cup. And we'll see coming up in September exactly what the squad is able to do. But at its full form, with all of those players, we saw what we saw in the Nations League. We saw what we saw in those tournaments and in those friendlies leading up to where we are now, all the way up to the Gold Cup and that end game against Mexico. That is the side, and I can relate a little bit to what the current players, the frustration that they're feeling. I can relate to it because I think the number of games that they play now is far and away more than what those old players were playing. They're playing more games in a season. They have more on their plate. More is expected of them from a physical perspective. And so that itself lends itself to, I need a little bit of time off. But the fact that we're having this infighting between the players that used to be on it and recognize the importance of winning on the international level and what that means to the game in our country, to a generation of players who, in a lot of ways, is more concerned with the clubs they're playing on, more concerned with that element of their game as opposed to what they're doing on the international team. I think disarray is a fair term to describe what exactly is going on. I don't really understand this whole, we have to be patient, we have to be kind, we have to recognize how far we've come. No, screw that. If you have a team of players who is less interested about winning in the biggest tournament in the world, which is coming to the United States next year, by the way, inside of a year, it's okay to say the word disarray. And it's one thing to speculate from a distance what all of this looks like, but that was a bold selection, and I give the people credit who are working on that Pulisic documentary because they probably realized how much of a wrench this would throw into where we are right now. And it did. And it has. That's why we're talking about it right now. That's why Ryan made that video the other day. It's you cannot call this the golden generation. And we even heard Taylor Twellman say the same exact thing. Hey, my bad for calling this the golden generation. My bad for crowning these players before it was even deserved. Because we do recognize we have more talent, more players playing overseas, more specialized, better coaching, better refereeing, better training, all of these things. But the actual team themselves has proven nothing. And again, if Mexico is our only measuring stick, if that is the only thing in which we measure ourselves, which don't get me wrong, I enjoy beating Mexico. I think anybody does. But if that is your only thing that you're carrying into, oh, and that one time you drew against England, what are we doing? Where are we going with this? This is frustrating to me. It's very, very frustrating to me. It's not what you did, boys, in sitting out. It's how you went about it. And I think there's a certain level of disregard for the, albeit smaller portion of the American population that really cares about what they do, but it means the world. The only way And I know we always talk about moving the needle forward. Like, that's a catchphrase that we use on this show or even just in language outside of the show. How do you do that? You win on the international level. You don't even have to win a World Cup. No one's asking you to do that. Okay, we're not Brazil. Like I said, majority of the world has never won a World Cup. But you need to show us more. You need to show us that you care. And I know that's an overgeneralized simplification of what is going on here. And I'm not saying the old heads are 100% right. Don't get me wrong. Okay? But we know what it used to look like and feel like. It was all for one and one for all. And now it just feels like a bunch of disjointed pieces who are more concerned about saving their image than winning games. I want to talk about this more. I know we're up against the time, and we're probably going to have more time to talk about this in the future. I apologize for how blurry I am today. I don't know what's wrong with the camera and the equipment. I'm going to get that figured out before tomorrow. Rest assured, we're good to go. But it very, very frustrating from that regard. Very frustrating.
I don't have an issue with anything that you said. I think that what you said is spot on. I think that the biggest challenge we have is how do we understand their perspective, right? You want me to understand your perspective. The purpose of this, right, is to try to in one way, shape, or form, try to give me an understanding of your mindset and where you're at, right? And so if you want me to understand your mindset, I think it's important that you let us in, right? But letting us in after the fact, 4 months after you could have said something, letting us in, now.
You can do it in the documentary, but you can't come out with a video in the moment and tell us.
Disingenuous. I think it's
yes.
It's one of those things where we have to understand that there is a right way and a wrong way to do something, and we're all guilty of that. I think it's also important to say that, the players today are way better than the players, technically, than they were 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But in the same sentence can say that the one thing that they're missing is the component that we need to win games on a regular basis. Right? This physicality, this grit, this toughness, this is, no one's going to get past me mentality. The mentality that we expect players to have, that they don't encompass that. They don't have that trait. I don't care what they say. Okay, I've seen it. Now, Christian Pulisic is a great player, a very technical player, and he has a lot of grit. I don't doubt that he's got grit. Okay? I don't doubt his physicality. I don't doubt that he is a player out there that's going to go out there and just and try to run through people. We need 11 players like Christian Pulisic to have a fighting chance, and we don't have 11 players. And more importantly, you are the leader of this team. And so I don't think for 1 second that Kobe Bryant wouldn't have been on the court for his team when they needed him.
Yeah.
Regardless of how tired he would have been. I don't doubt for 1 second that Michael Jordan would have been on the court. I don't doubt for 1 second that Joe Montana, Tom Brady would have been on the court. I don't doubt that. I doubt it from Christian because he did it. And we could argue all day long about how this tournament in the big scheme of things is meaningless. We've talked about it's a meaningless tournament in the whole big scheme of things, but it's your last big tournament leading up to the World Cup. Now, if you said last year Gold Cup, okay, whatever, no big deal. All right, the year before that, no big deal. It didn't matter. But this one is like your lead-in to the World Cup season. And why wouldn't you want to show the world what you're capable of? And that's the part that we struggle with, and that's the part that we're missing out on. And that's the part that I don't care how many interviews you do and how many documentaries you make, it isn't going to change the fact that all of us are going to say, why didn't you do this? And we're all going to second-guess you. And that's unfortunately the role that you are currently in.
Yes. And when you're the captain, you set the expectation.
Yeah,
you set the expectation for everybody else on that team.
Absolutely. Well, we'll continue this conversation and more conversations just like this here tomorrow morning. If it's your first time stopping by, hit that subscribe button, like us, and share this with your friends and family. And we will continue to come back here for more on Inside the Game. Episode 137 in the books. That's Nathan Wangler. I'm Jonathan Turner. Come back again tomorrow morning, same time, same place, right here on Inside the Game on the National Soccer Network. Again, subscribe, like us, share us with your friends and family, and we'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place.
Welcome to Inside the Game on the National Soccer Network. Now, here are your hosts, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wangler.